we work a lot, have worked a lot on like drivers, things in my personality that I'm finding difficult to work with being unwell, if that makes sense. So like I'm a really achievement oriented person. And if I'm not doing stuff like not working, not keeping my house clean, all these basic things, then to me that feels like I'm failing at life. But when there's nothing you can do about that, you can't have that mindset. It's not gonna work. And don't ever listen to people that say you can't recover. Don't listen to them. They are liars.
Hello, everyone. I am really happy today. We have someone new here to share a bit of her story with us. We have Mel Thomas from the UK. She's in Bristol. So, thank you so much for joining us today, Mel.
You are very welcome. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm also really excited. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for pushing past your nerves and doing this anyways. And as I was saying before we got started, I've done dozens of these videos and I still get nervous. So, I think it's normal.
Okay,
I'm
good.
waiting to go away. Every week, I'm like, this will be the week I don't get nervous at all. But no, it still happens. So, Mel is here with us today because she has been diagnosed in the last few years with chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME. And I would really love for you to share a bit of your journey with us because I've been following you on Instagram and I really love your posts. And every time I see them, I make a note to myself. I'm like, I need to make friends with this girl. I need. One, because she looks awesome, and two, because I really want to interview you on my channel. So I was so glad when I reached out and you said yes. That was really exciting for me, because I'm sure you have your struggles like the rest of us. There's nobody who doesn't, but there's something about the way you seem to be approaching this and your attitude and some of the adaptations you've made to manage your illness and your recovery as you're working through this that I just thought were really unique and inspiring. So I'm just excited to hear more about that.
Thank you. I always feel like a bit of a dork when I post on Instagram, so I'm glad it comes out not that dorky, I guess.
Not at all. It comes across as authentic, so I think that's why I like it. So, of course, we're going to dive into, what happened when you became unwell and what that looked like, and the sorts of things that have been working for you so far to help you get the recovery that you've made so far. But before that, I always find it's important and interesting to hear a bit about what life was like for you before this all happened. So, what did things look like for you before you started becoming unwell with chronic fatigue syndrome?
Well, as a child, I was always really healthy, like barely even had colds, super energetic, used to talk way too much. um, yeah, just really healthy child, happy. And then same as teenager, pretty much. And I got married really young. I got married in 2013 when I was 19. And that was great. Like, we've been together for forever, pretty much. Yeah, so I was just living a pretty happy life. Just got married. I was living in a teeny tiny little flat. It was actually a garage. Yeah. My in-laws had this little garage in their garden that they converted to like a little flat. And we all kind of went through the rounds. So Harvey's older brother lived there for a bit, and then we lived there while we saved to buy a house. So yeah, we were living in this teeny little place, just kind of plodding on really. I had a full-time job that I enjoyed. It was quite full on, but I was working in accounts. What else? I used to go to the gym. Yeah, just pretty normal life, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what happened when you first started to notice that something might be wrong?
So 2015 was a year, like, whoa. So February, right at the beginning, my husband and I, he's called Harvey, by the way, we both got the flu. And like, I've never had the flu before, not proper flu. Because sometimes people say, oh, I had a bit of the flu. I'm like, you don't really get a bit of the flu. You know if you have the flu, like, wow. So we both had the flu and it was pretty rough. It came with like a really weird dizzy thing as well. Not quite vertigo, I think, but yeah, really not very pleasant dizziness. So we had that, and then Harvey's dizziness just faded and he was normal, and mine kind of never went away. So I was just dizzy like permanently after that. And then April came and I got chicken pox at 21, I was then. So that was fun, which, yeah, I didn't really rest either because resting is for sissies, apparently. So, yeah, clear chickenpox. And then somewhere in between, I had strep throat as well. So I had all these like infections one after the other. And then I just didn't really feel right after that. I was like, this is just dragging and dragging and dragging. I just felt exhausted. And we bought a house and we had to work really hard. And I just found it so difficult. Yeah. So it kind of got to like, mm, we got the keys to the house in May. And I think maybe July-ish, I was like, okay, I'm still not feeling okay. There's something not right here. Yeah, the investigation sort of began around then, I think.
When did you know that, okay, something bigger might be happening? This doesn't seem to be going away.
Yeah, when it was like 6 months down the line and I was still just feeling horrific, I was like, this is not really normal. Like, I would have got better by now. So I think by then I was doing a lot of Googling and a lot of doctor's appointments. Yeah. Somebody told me I had a vestibular issue, I think from the flu thing. So that was kind of thrown in. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Just you'll be fine, and here, take some antidepressants and just kind of get over yourself.
It's a tough one, and I empathize with, us, the patients, and a bit with the doctors as well, some of them, because I don't know a lot about clinical depression, but from what I understand, there is a big overlap of some of the
Yeah.
symptoms. So I get how it could present that way, and then we come in, and of course we're depressed. I mean,
Oh,
it's really
yeah.
depressing.
After you felt terrible for a long time, then yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, but I think at least for me, I could tell. I knew. I mean, I knew I was depressed, but I had zero doubt in my mind which came first. I knew there wasn't a depression that brought on all these physical symptoms. I was just depressed because it was dragging on so long. So they weren't really telling you much. Weren't kind of just telling you to wait it out. And when did the chronic fatigue syndrome diagnosis come in, or what did that look like? How did that come about?
I think that I had started getting some really weird symptoms. And when I went to the GP, I actually found a really good doctor, which was just like, oh, who kind of suggested, oh, maybe it's this. And I was like, oh, really? Um, but yeah, initially I think they were a bit, he was concerned that it could be multiple sclerosis because some of the symptoms are similar, aren't they? But the bizarre ones I was having was like some visual issues and numbness and tingling in my arms and stuff. So yeah, at that point where weird things were happening, they were kind of like, oh, okay, we better just make sure that it's nothing that
Hmm.
we're missing, sort of thing. So then I had all the whole bloods and everything came back fine. And then he referred me to, because we have a clinic here in Bristol, a chronic fatigue service. So he referred me there, and that was where the diagnosis came from.
And what did you think of the diagnosis when they told you it?
Yeah, I thought it was a load of rubbish. I was
Really?
like, what are you talking about? No, I was in massive denial, like massive denial, because at that point I'd already done my own research as well, and it kept coming up chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, and I was like, no, it can't be that. So yeah, when the diagnosis came, in a way, I was really relieved because I was having a lot of time off work, sick, and didn't have anything to say, like other than I just feel really unwell. So that was a real relief to say, here's my diagnosis. Like, I'm sorry, but this is all I can tell you. So that was great, and that was a relief in a way. But yeah, I wasn't too happy about the diagnosis, and also the fact of when you get that diagnosis, it's like, and there's nothing we can do for you. So bye.
Had you heard of this before you started Googling and it started popping up in your searches? Were you aware of this?
Yes, I have heard of ME from quite a long time ago, and
Okay.
I am ashamed to say I was one of those people that was like, really? Like, are you sure that you're sick? So, yeah, I think that definitely didn't help when the diagnosis came. The fact that I already had this idea about that illness.
I love that you just shared that because it's something that I so rarely hear. And when you said it, I thought, you know what? I think I've thought things like that too. And I struggled with my diagnosis as well. And I telling people about it. I mean, my
Mm.
mom had this, so I had a long history of being aware of
Oh,
it. So, but I still would think sometimes, like, if someone else was telling me what I'm telling them, like, how much would I fully buy into it? Like, as a serious illness, would I treat
yeah,
them the same as if they told me they had cancer or MS or anything else?
yeah,
Because it is very serious. So I could already hear my own embarrassing, shameful judgments in my head. So when I was telling other people, I could hear that as well. It's not an easy thing to admit now that we're on the other side of it. But
oh yeah. I mean, I now would never like. I think it's ignorance, isn't it? Because I had heard of
yeah.
it, but it was like I didn't really actually know anything about it or anyone who is actually affected. So yeah, it's just you hear people talk and it sounds a bit flaky on paper. So yeah,
Yeah. And I think when your life is being stripped away from you in such a severe way, like you really want something that sounds like an explanation for what you're going through.
yes,
Like, this does not fit what I'm going through. I
yeah,
always think, every time I find myself judging somebody, because of course I do, I think we all do, but every time I find myself judging somebody, I think it's an information deficit. Like, because every time I fully know the full picture, 99 times out of 100, it goes away. It's
yeah,
just, we don't understand. So it's just an important thing to remember, I think, when we are feeling a bit judgmental, that
mm,
to remind ourselves that we might not know everything. And for other people who are judging us, just to remind ourselves that they don't know the whole picture. So, when you were the worst with this illness, what did your life look like? Like, what did an average day look like, or an average week? You mentioned some unique symptoms. I'm just curious to know what that was like for you.
I would say my worst times have actually been really recently. So the past year has been super tough. Early 2019, I got a bug, and that just like wiped me out. So I was doing okay, pretty much. I was like managing as much as it sucked already. But yeah, so in the past year, I've spent quite a lot of time in bed, just sort of laid out. Yeah, I stopped working in August of last year because I'd had so much time off sick, and I just was like, I can't keep doing this. I'm feeling so much worse than I was at the point of diagnosis. So I thought I was just like pushing and pushing and pushing, but I had to stop. So yeah, since then I actually got a bit worse since stopping work, and I don't know if that's just me or I have heard a few different people that when you kind of stop, your body's like, oh,
Mhm.
thank you. Like I just need to just crash now fully. So I feel a little bit like that happened. But yeah, that was a lot of time in bed. Just major exhaustion, like even moving the covers to turn over in bed is like, ow. Um, yeah, massive body aches. Yeah, a lot of pain actually. More pain now than I used to experience previously. Yeah, to the point where getting down the stairs was like I would be in tears by the time I got there. Um, yeah, just a lot of the normal symptoms of massive fatigue and pain, but a few other weird ones. I get migraines sometimes as well. Yeah, a lot of tingling and just that feeling of like super heaviness in your limbs and a lot of brain fog as well. I have had days where I'm just like pretty much semi-conscious like the whole day, just in and out of sleep. But then at the other end, not able to sleep. Yeah. So, you know, that thing where you just need to
Yeah.
sleep and your body's like, no, I'm going to wake you up at 2 a.m. and we're just going to be wide awake. Like, this is
Yeah.
normal.
But not give you enough energy to do anything. So just lay
No.
here, trapped in your body, aware
Yeah.
of all your symptoms and suffering, but don't sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, you can't speak to anyone either because it's the middle of the night and that's super annoying. So, yeah, a lot of weird stuff, a lot of pain. Like, over the past year, my main change has been a lot more pain.
Well, I'm so sorry that you've been going through all of this. This sounds really, really, really tough. I've obviously had my own struggles, but everyone's are unique. And I just, I don't know what it's like for you to have gone through the things you've gone through. And it just sounds really rough. Yeah. Just really
Yeah.
sorry you have to face that. How has this been, if you're okay with my asking this, with Harvey? How does he cope with all of this?
It's been really hard. It has been really hard. He's been absolutely amazing. I don't want to big him up too much because I'm going to get in trouble.
I
For not
was just
being like,
thinking, like, oh, he's going to see this. We got
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Harvey, Saint Harvey.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much, honestly. No, he's been really, really great. He's been just the shoulder to cry on, like, yeah, just an absolute rock. So I'm really, really grateful for that. I don't if I was I don't know, if I was on my own or living at my parents', I don't know, things would have been really different. But I'm really grateful to have a very supportive other half. So yeah, he's been great. And occasionally when like I don't know, because it's so hard feeling so terrible that you kind of forget, or maybe it's just me, but you forget that the people you're around have feelings as well. And it's obviously a massive impact on their lives. It's not just the person who is suffering. So occasionally I would get mm, very selfish, for lack of a better word, and frustrated that, like, if he's feeling tired, I'm like, don't talk to me about feeling tired because
Mm.
look at this. But yeah, occasionally he's a very balanced guy, so he does remind me as well that other people have feelings too. Like, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. So
Oh,
yeah, he's been a really good, like, really caring and really attentive to me, but at the same time trying to keep my head like level, which is really good for me anyway. Maybe somebody else would be like, cool with that.
Oh, I'm with you. I think that's important. I think that's part of being in a relationship is you got to be willing to like call each other on your stuff and
Yeah,
point out some things you might not be seeing. It can be tough. It's tough for everybody. I'm sure it's very difficult for him watching you suffer. I imagine caregivers feel a bit helpless. They want to be able to fix things and they can't. Yeah, and I know for me, I have from living with my mother, I also had a lot of guilt because I didn't feel like I was allowed to say that it was hard for me because it was very hard for her. Like whatever she was going through was harder. So I didn't feel like I
yeah,
had any rights to any feelings or any struggles. So that's good that you guys are addressing that and talking about that. Like he's allowed to
yeah,
struggle.
yeah, yeah,
So it sounds like it's been, you've said the probably the worst most recently. But you've been dealing with this for quite a few years, so I imagine you've tried different things and have been experimenting with different things. What have been the things that have helped you so far? What has shown you the most progress, I guess?
Yeah, so the past maybe 6 weeks or so, I've actually been up and about and able to do like a few normal things. Still kind of in a different way. But yeah, so I've actually seen a real bit of improvement in the last few weeks, which is amazing.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. Oh, I'm so happy for you. So, what's been helping?
So I have been doing counseling sessions for quite a while actually. But yeah, I think that's had quite a good impact. But the kind of little switch I think was having acupuncture. So I found a lady just really close by, and I had a few sessions. I had like a couple a week for a few weeks, and I'm tapering it out now to see how my body sort of responds with less treatments. But yeah, that was like after a couple, it was instant like, oh, okay, I can actually like my brain is working a bit and I can move a little bit. I can go out and see people. So that was like huge. But along the lines, I've been also doing quite a few other things, changes in my diet, a lot of probiotic stuff. My mum is like, we call her Dr. Cohen. She's not actually a doctor, but she's really, really health conscious. And she makes this kombucha, which you probably heard of, like a fermented drink. So she like plows us all with that. But I think it's really helpful. I think it's definitely been helpful. So yeah, just a few tweaks in my diet. My mindset has changed a lot, and the acupuncture has been really helpful.
It's interesting you mentioned about your mom and the fermented foods and the kombucha. I make kombucha too, and fermented foods have been a huge part of my recovery. I mean, just one piece, but definitely
Yeah.
helpful. So, yeah, I definitely can see the value in that. So, you mentioned mindset in that list, and you had talked about earlier about the intense denial you had with all this. So, what does your mindset look like now, and how are you managing with that denial?
I think okay, so last year, August, just before I decided to stop working for a while, I went to a private clinic in London called the Optimum Health Clinic. And it was there. So this was my like, something has to help. I was paid all this money to see these people, like money that I didn't have, but I was like, anything now, I just don't care. Um, so I went to see this clinic, and it was there that they do a course where they basically just show you that your thoughts and mindset have an impact on your physical health. Not to say that they think ME is a psychological illness, because they don't at all.
Mhm.
Just to show that you could possibly make things worse for yourself by the way you think and that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
that was a change for me, something that I hadn't really considered before. So I think that really opened up my mind to kind of think differently, because have just been really, really angry about being sick. Yeah, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and I definitely think that's really unhelpful.
And I'm curious about this one actually, if you wouldn't mind elaborating a bit more, because I suspect we all deal with anger. I had intense anger.
Mm.
So, was it just as simple as just bringing some awareness to it and it sort of melted away? Or how did you manage to start letting go of that anger?
Definitely bringing awareness, yeah, and just realizing that being angry is not going to fix things. It's only going to make things worse, which is so easy to say, and I think we all know that really. But when you're so unwell, it's like, okay, I actually have to change this about
Mhm.
myself. Yeah, so I with my counselor, I worked a bit on that, on my anger issues. It sounds really bad. I'm not a really angry person. Yeah, we work a lot, have worked a lot on like drivers, things in my personality that I'm finding difficult to work with being unwell, if that makes sense. So like I'm a really achievement oriented person. And if I'm not doing stuff like not working, not keeping my house clean, all these basic things, then to me that feels like I'm failing at life. But when there's nothing you can do about that, you can't have that mindset. Is yeah, it's not gonna work. So I've done a lot of work on just changing the way I view success and achievements and my own personal goal setting and things like that, which has been more difficult than I'm making out.
Yeah, it seems like a theme that most of us don't put our focus there when we get sick with this because it's a very physical illness in a lot of ways. And at least for me, it felt like a waste of time almost to be focusing on my mental health or my mindset or any of that. But I've come to appreciate that for me, of everything that keeps my health back, everything that was keeping me from recovery, stress was probably the biggest one. It could lay me out more than like trying to exercise, more than, alcohol, junk food, like stress just leveled me. So, like you were saying, I guess even just bringing awareness to it, because once you shine a spotlight on it, this anger is
Mm.
keeping you here, then it's like, okay, I have to stop this. And you start, at least for me, I start looking at it like drinking poison, like I wouldn't sit around eating crap every day expecting to get better. So I can't sit around with this anger and this stress and this resentment and denial and expect to get anywhere. It doesn't seem, it seems counterintuitive, I think, to what we've been taught growing up from the medical system. We were supposed to treat symptoms and take pills and get
Yeah,
surgeries and stuff. But
yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I love how many people are pointing out that this is a part of their recovery because it was definitely a part of mine. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I think stress for me as well is a massive part of kind of keeping me unwell. And yeah, just probably part of the reason that I became unwell in the first place. Not necessarily always external stress either. I think, well, me personally, I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Mm.
Just, I don't know, that's just the way I am, I guess. But yeah, I put a lot of pressure to do things or be a certain way, which is not helpful.
The good thing about that stress, I can relate because I'm the same, is I find it's an easier one, or it can be an easier one to deal with because you have so much more control over it. I mean, ultimately, I
Mm.
guess the lesson is learning that we have control over all of the stress that we experience to a certain extent, how we react to things. So, how's the acceptance going from the denial
It's
that you felt
actually,
early on?
yeah, it's only taken, what are we, 4 or 5 years. But I'm definitely getting there. Some days are better than others, but generally speaking, I'm much more accepting of where I'm at than I have been for a very long time. Accepting of my own situation and just feeling a bit more relaxed about it all, I think has really helped me as well. It's actually a real sense of relief to just kind of just sit with where I am and just kind of be okay with it as much as I can be. It feels like you're giving up when you accept this situation because nobody wants to be in it, do they? But it's kind of the opposite, really, when you
Mhm.
actually think about it. It's like, okay, I'm going to accept it and then I can move forwards.
Ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really is. Yeah.
Something else I'm hearing people talk more and more about, which I love, which was completely, completely foreign to me before, is the concept of happiness while being sick. And I think that's kind of tied into acceptance because I was always waiting, like, I'll be fully happy once I'm past this, and to think, okay, I'm not fully there yet, but I could actually be happy right now. Just was not at all the way my mind was wiring, but I'm hearing more and more people talk about this, and I suspect we resist it because it feels like accepting where you're at. So if you allow yourself to just be like, I can be happy, this is my life, I have a full life right now as is, I'm going to keep working. This isn't the end goal, but I can still have joy. And
It's a tough one as well. I feel probably quite similar to you in that I've, um, yeah, kind of been waiting as well. Like, oh, I can do this when I'm recovered. When I'm recovered, we'll do this, me and Harvey together. Like,
Mhm.
but I'm realizing that there can still be a lot of joy in doing things when you're able, even if it's really small things, and just doing things differently as well to still get some joy. So I'm thinking of, like, for the past few months, where if I've been a little bit better, as in well enough to do something, but it involves going out or, I don't know, maybe having to stand or walk somewhere, then I'm like, oh, well, I can't do that. So I just
Mhm.
won't go. Whereas now I'm realizing that, okay, I do want to do that. How can I do it? Instead of just deciding that if I can't do it the normal way, then I'm not going to do it at all. I've kind of changed the way I can still be happy, I guess.
I love that. It's like treating everything like a problem that you have to solve, like a puzzle. How do we fix this?
Yeah.
And I saw something on your Instagram that you got. What was it, like a modified bike
Oh,
or?
my little bike. My little bike is so cute.
Tell us about this.
Okay, so yeah, I was like, I really want to go out. Like when I'm well enough to, I want to go out, I want to do stuff, I want to see people. How do I do that without like constantly having to get people to come to me or get picked up and all these complicated things? And I really, really, really did not want a mobility scooter. Like that was just a flat no for me. That's great if people are happy with that. Brilliant. But for me, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So Harvey was like, why don't you get one of those little scooters, like electric scooter? And I was thinking, that's quite a good idea, but I don't know if I can stand on it for that long and it's really kind of uncomfortable and stuff. So I looked for some that you can get seats with, but you just look super awkward sitting on there. I'm like, that looks really uncomfortable. Like, I'm not going to do that. I found this one that looks just like a teeny tiny bike, but it is pretty much an electric scooter. So there's no pedaling involved or any of those very taxing things. And also, it looks super cute, which helps. But yeah, I
That's
love it.
awesome.
I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks very much like a bike to me, and yeah, it's nice. As much as there shouldn't be any stigma on any of these different aids, and stuff, the reality is that there is, and it's great that people use them, and it's great that we have them, and we definitely should not have any stigma or any of it. But sometimes we just want to feel like we fit in, or a piece of
Yeah.
our own self.
Yeah. And sometimes, like, you want to go out and you just don't want people to look at you differently. Like, you
Yeah,
just want to be just
yeah.
a normal person, not, oh, there's that sick girl over there. I really, the first time I took it out, I think I actually went to my acupuncture appointment and I was like, this is great. I can take myself up the road and not be exhausted by the time I get there. And it was really funny because the first time I went out, I went past this lady walking her little dog. She kind of shouted after me, oh, that's so cute. I was like, I know.
You.
Yeah. So yeah, it just was like a massive feeling of freedom that I haven't felt for ages. So it's been my
That's
little savior.
If you have a link that you can share with me, I'll put it in the video description because I imagine some other
Yeah,
people check it out.
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
done. It's in the video description. Take a look if you want
Magic.
to see what this magical contraption is that Mel's talking about. So talking about embarrassment, and we both mentioned this a little bit because I definitely, right or wrong, probably wrong, struggled with embarrassment with this illness. I didn't want to tell anybody. For years, I didn't tell anybody. For the first couple of years, is pretty much all I talked about because it was just my most intense years, and I don't know, I was just in shock. But then after that, I just didn't want it. I didn't want chronic fatigue syndrome associated with me at all. So I just pretended I didn't have it. I'd rather tell people I was lazy or anything. They're like, hey, want to go do yoga? And I'd be like, nah, I'm more like a sit on the couch kind of girl. Like, do you want to come over for coffee? Like, seriously.
I
And
didn't
I,
think
you
about
know,
that one. That's a great idea.
anything.
Yeah, embarrassment is a big deal for me. I'm kind of the opposite way around to you. The first few years, I think because I was really unwell, but like I could still function. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just kind of keep that quiet. People sort of like my family knew that something was wrong and I'd been going to the doctor and stuff. So I kind of told people when I had to,
Mhm,
but even then it was like, oh yeah, I got this, but I'm fine. Yeah, but I think now that things had got to the point where it was just unable to hide from anyone, that I was like, I'm gonna have to just get over this. Yeah, I'm only just really actually comfortable talking about it. Comfortable is pushing it a little bit. Uh, More able to. It's actually been a lot better than I thought it would be, and I'm much less embarrassed now. I think, yeah, I think I worried a lot about what people think, and um, I'm realizing slowly that that's not actually that important. And also, if it's people that are close to you, they often don't think the terrible things that you worry about them
mhm.
thinking. It's just not the case. Yeah, it's been difficult, really difficult, but it's definitely much easier to cope with when you're open and honest about how things are. When you need help, like people are not going to be able to help you if they don't know that you need it. If you're hiding constantly, if people ask you how you are and you're like, oh yeah, I'm fine, then they'll think, oh well, she's fine. So, let's not worry about her.
Yeah, I found something quite similar. I've noticed quite a few things. I had all these fears around it for years, and I built it up to be something that was not at all resembling reality. I wasn't giving people enough credit, I realized. Of course, there are some people who are not understanding or say insensitive things, but the vast
Mm,
majority, I don't know what you found, but for me, people have been very gracious and very understanding for the most part, very supportive.
yeah.
I don't feel judged, which has been very surprising. And also, I found people don't care about me nearly as much as I thought they did. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, moving on.
Yeah.
And then also, like you said, it's easier to get accommodations or to get what you need out of life when you can just be upfront about it. And then I guess the last thing that I've noticed is that I did lie a lot. Like hiding it made me lie a lot, which is just really, for me, a toxic way to live. So to get to just start telling the truth about my life is really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think I was doing a lot of pretending, and it's actually really exhausting.
Really, really is. You
Yeah.
have to kind of like remember the excuses that you made up for different things. Like it's a lot to keep track of this fake healthy life you're trying to pretend that you live. So, what have you taken away from all of this so far? What have you learned? Or what suggestions or tips would you have for other people or for yourself if you could go back in time?
My biggest tip, if I could go back, would be just get over yourself. Really, come on. um, I could have probably saved myself a lot of hardship and stress just accepting where I actually was at instead of forcing myself to do stuff that I couldn't do and fighting to live this life that was not possible for me to live. So, yeah, just getting over myself would be a massive one. I would say be gentle in your approach to recovery. I think I have set myself a lot of unachievable goals previously, and timelines and stuff. Like, for example, when I came off of work, I was like, okay, I'm going to take all my sick pay. I'll be done by this month and I'll be right as rain, like ready to go back. So yeah, just don't set yourself up to fail because it's only going to make you feel worse and more down. And yeah, it's just a really vicious cycle. And don't ever listen to people that say you can't recover. Don't listen to them. They are liars. Especially
Yes.
the medical professionals. Just it's still not true. Like just yeah, don't listen.
Oh, I've been diving into the internet. I haven't looked at it in a while. Just looking what someone asked me about a stat that I'd quoted in one of my videos, so I went looking for where I could find it, and I went through website after website after website. I'm talking about official websites, not like people's blogs or like, and it was so depressing. It is ridiculous, the prognosis, because I was looking specifically at prognosis on every single web page to find this one stat. And yeah, I just years ago I had to just stop reading all of it because I just it's you need to believe that you can get better, and people do get better. We're not,
Yeah.
making this up. Like it's not like we're saying
Yeah.
I'm going to be a unicorn and I have to believe it's possible.
I can fly. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, it's not like
It,
that. Yeah.
it is achievable. Yeah. That was a good point too about like the too lofty of goals because I always read when you're trying to achieve anything, you need to set yourself small goals,
Yeah.
attainable goals, and then as you achieve them, you prove to yourself over time your competence and your faith in yourself grows. So if you just try setting these larger ones and you keep failing, you're kind of creating this learned helplessness. Like, I'll never get out of this. Everything I do doesn't work. There's no point. I'm stuck with this forever. And with chronic fatigue syndrome, I think it can be extra easy because it might seem like we're setting small goals, but they actually are still big. Like, at least for me, my goals had to be really small.
Yeah. Well, my
Baby steps.
current goals are like stretch every day.
Yeah.
So it's small, but for me, that's actually quite big currently. But yeah, small and achievable is definitely the one. I would also say to not expect validation from other people because, well, you're just probably not going to get it. But I feel like I wanted people to believe me like so much, especially recently where I've had a lot of stuff to deal with insurers and kind of financial unpleasant things.
Mhm.
But it's just so disappointing when it's obvious that somebody doesn't believe that you're unwell, or yeah, they just kind of write you off as, "Oh, it's all in her head," one of those. But now that I'm not expecting that, like I kind of go in with low expectations, which is not great really, but for me it's been a kind of necessary boundary
Mhm.
so that I don't constantly get really disappointed by people's reactions and stuff.
And I think this is where I went wrong during my time with this illness because I really isolated myself from other people with chronic fatigue syndrome or ME. I didn't talk to anybody. And I think that's I'm finding now where you can get that validation, where you can look someone in the eye and they know, like they believe you, they get it. And it's just, you don't
Yeah.
have to convince them. You don't have to tell them a single sentence. They get it. So. Well, thank you so much, Mel, for sharing all of this. I'm sure there is lots in here that people will find really helpful. When I first started doing this, I thought I'm going to focus on people who have fully recovered because that is what people want to see. And I think there's value in that, but I also think there's a lot of value in sharing the stories of people who are still in it, see what's working, what's not working, and it's more relatable and it's just nice to see what we're going through reflected a bit in other people and see what they're doing in the moment to pull themselves out of this. So thank you for taking the time to share a bit of your ME CFS journey with us today.
You are very welcome. Thank you for having me. I feel very privileged.
This should help you get over your reluctance to speak about it now that we're
Yes,
out on the internet now.
I know. I actually already told my mum that I was going to be on the internet as well. So now my whole family is going to see it.
Say some nice things about them right now.
And I love my family.
Yeah, amazing. So,
Oh,
if
thank you.
people want to connect with you or find you, where can they do that?
I am on Instagram and I'm on your Facebook group thing. So
Yes.
you can spot me there. I pop up occasionally. Yeah, I have a blog as well, actually, called allthegear-noidea.com, which is, yeah, just kind of about my personal experience with ME and what I'm kind of doing and what's working and what's not, sort of thing.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So that is all in the video description. So we'll have your Instagram and your blog there for people to find you. And yes, we do have a group on Facebook called Chronic Fatigue Syndrome Support, Inspiration, Recovery. No.
Something
Called
along the lines of support.
Recovery, Recovery, Support, Motivation. I don't know. We have a Facebook group.
Yeah,
And the
it's really nice too.
don't take the fact that we don't know the name to mean that it's not awesome, because it really is. So it's a really positive space. It's focused on recovery, focused on motivating one another and supporting one another. And yes, Mel's there. I'm there. So I will share that in the video description as well if anyone is interested in joining. So thank you again, Mel. Thank you to everyone who is watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments. Please leave them below. If you have any questions for Mel or for myself, we'd be happy to answer those there. And please come find us on social media. We'd love to hear from you there as well. And if you enjoyed this video and you think someone else might like it, please share it. And that's all for today. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week.